We are rolling right along here in the month of December, guys. In fact, we only got 3 weeks left in the year that was 2020. A year that not a lot of people have positive things to say, but a lot of positive things happened this week. Let's talk about them. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another weekly update here to talk about the week that was and the week that will be, guys. It's been a very, very interesting week. I say that every week, don't I? But you know what? The life of a booktuber is just pure excitement. What can I say? Let's do like we always do, guys. Let's get into what's been going down, starting with what am I reading? Now, last week I told you I'm going to read The Talisman by Stephen King, and then I'm going to read The Martian by Andy Weir. Well, a lot can happen in the course of a week, because not only did I start Martian, I finished it. In fact, it was one of those things where I was reading Talisman. I was like, hey, let me just take a peek at this book when it showed up. And I read like the first like 2 chapters, and next thing you know, I kept putting Talisman away and picking this up, and to the point where I just finished this. And that isn't a detriment to The Talisman. Anyone who's read this knows that this is the very essence of a page turner. I know a lot of people use the word page turner on books that aren't actually page turners. The chapters are so short, they almost all end on something that's kind of cliffhangery. So you got to keep going. And it's not a very difficult read, a very quick read. And it was very, very good. I said I did see the movie, which I'm going to talk about when I get to movie talk here in a little bit. I had seen the movie before, but there was a little circumstance where I didn't remember a lot of it. No, I wasn't drunk. But the book was very, very good. I'll probably be reviewing that sometime around Christmas. There's a couple others I want to review before that, and next week's really booked, which I'll get into. And then, of course, yes, I was reading The Talisman. Really not that far into it yet. Again, I like what I've read so far. I just kind of got sidetracked. It happens, guys, from time to time. That's not me saying, oh, hey, it's a Stephen King story I'm not crazy about, because actually, I'm liking it quite a bit. And that goes ahead and takes us into what am I going to read now. Obviously, it's going to be full speed ahead for Talisman. I only got 2 books left in the final 3 weeks of 2020. They happen to be 2 big boys, but you know, these are what I've got left all the way until we start the good old Malazan read-along. So obviously it's going to be full speed ahead this week on The Talisman. And then when I finish that, I'm going to be diving into Kings of Paradise by Mr. Richard Nail. I always say Nail. I think that's because I've been reading Stormlight. Richard Nell, gentleman, sent me this book, and it's very, very awesome on Twitter. So I want to make sure that I give this a read and give my thoughts on it, because it sounds very good. It sounds very good from what my dude Petrick has been telling me about it. And besides Name of the Wind, we pretty much agree on just about everything. And maybe Rhythm of War. Oh, I don't know. We'll talk about that next week when I get into that. But as far as The Talisman goes, guys, I think it feels very much... It doesn't feel Dark Tower, but it feels like the most Dark Tower-y thing that Stephen King's done besides the Dark Tower. Does that make sense? Actually, I kind of really thinking it feels sort of like Weave World, but more what I was wanting out of Weave World by Clive Barker. Does that make sense? So I'm liking it quite a bit so far. Still haven't very much but scratch the surface. 100 pages into a big old beast of book like that is really doesn't make that much of a difference. But I'm liking what I've read so far. And I feel like I'm a good enough Stephen King reader at this point to know which parts are his and which parts are Mr. Straw, but I can't tell. I assume that if it's anything that's really disgusting, it's probably Stephen. And there are some disgusting parts in there. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to read, guys. And then we're going to be all clear for 2021 and the good old Malazan read-along that just seems to get bigger every day. By the way, about that, if you want to jump on the Discord, we get a new I got a fly or something. What the fuck is that? We got a new people jump on the Discord every single day and say, hey, I'm here for the Malazan read-along. So that warband is just getting massive, guys. So I want to make sure I let you guys know if you're interested in doing that. More and more I get people asking me about how that's going to work. I'm going to talk about it here in a second. But jump on the Discord if you haven't yet. I think that you will find plenty to do there. Besides talk about Malazan, I've had a lot of people say, hey, I came here for the Malazan read-along, but I've actually stayed for the discussion of everything else that's here. So we're edging 3,000 users on the Discord server now, and that's really awesome. I love talking to you guys on there. It's a great, great time. Let's go ahead and talk about what happened this week on the channel. Before I talk about content, we crossed 33,000 subscribers. That's awesome. It really, really is. I have an internal goal, a pie in the sky kind of goal. Not pie in the sky, because my pie in the sky goal, guys, was 7,500 by this year. But people, I talked about this in my wrap-up, that people say I'm really kind of like pessimistic about this. because I thought that the channel had a ceiling of like 25 or 30. I said, okay, I'll be optimistic. Let's see if we can hit 35,000 by New Year. So we got 3 weeks to try to get another 2,000 subscribers. So that's just like under 100 per day. Let's see if we can do it. Who knows? Will it change anything? No. It's just always fun to have goals. You're just a goal-oriented person. It's just kind of something that you kind of go for. I used to work in budget analysis and projection and boring stuff that you don't want to hear about. So yeah, I like to read data, and I like to make predictions and stuff like that. So here we go. Are you still with me? Are you asleep? All right. Here we go. Maybe if I can't get my kids to fall asleep, I'll just talk about stuff like that. We closed up the first official channel read-along on the channel. Now, the Gray Coats read-along was really something that I wanted to put together as kind of like a test run for the Malazan one, see how everything went. I think that it went pretty smoothly. We had a lot of people kind of bail along the way, but you expect something like that. I expect usually to lose at least half of the people that are joining for the Malazan read-along. And with the Gray Coats, it was a much smaller group, and it did seem like at least if they didn't bail, the conversation got lower and lower with each book. So I expect that to happen with Malazan too. Again, I don't think it's a detriment to the series or the contents or anything like that. It's really just a lot can change for people over the course of a month, much less 4 months or 2 years if you're talking about Malazan. So it was still cool to wrap it up talking about Tyrant's Throne. I'm going to hopefully be talking to Mr. DeCastel on the channel when his next book, the first book in Court of Shadows, that's Play of Shadows, which continues his Great Coats universe. I plan on having him on the channel to talk about the Great Coats series with me and to talk about what is to come for our Great Coats. I'm just excited that the authors want to come on and talk to me. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. What else did we do? We talked about the last spoiler talk for Rhythm of War. That was part 5. So wrap that up just like we said we were going to. Here's the thing. Is with the spoiler talks for that is everybody told me that the spoiler talks I did for the first 3 Stormlight books, they were good, but they wish they had been longer. They were like 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes to talk about each book. 2 hours. If you add all these videos up together, it was 2 hours of spoiler talk for Rhythm of War. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about it more than I thought I would. I do feel like some of the early resistance to any criticism of it all is kind of worn off, and people now are kind of taking a step back, that the newness is worn off, and they're like, okay, I can see where you're coming from there. And, it didn't bother me as much as it bothered you, but I can accept that it bothered you, whereas at first it was like, die, heathen, when I was saying anything remotely critical. I also did one more Kindle video. Now, I know how you guys feel about that. The constant watchers are like, really, Mike, another Kindle video? Guys, I still get questions about Kindle stuff all of the time. They are the most viewed videos on my channel. So obviously, I'm still going to get hit with tons of messages about that. So I said the best way to do this is do an update video. There's people trying to make that decision before Christmas. Why not? Let's go ahead and do one more where it's just, talk about some of the hands-on experiences I've had with it over the first 6 months I've had the device. And unlike with the Paperwhite, my opinion rather changed on the Oasis. Whereas before I said I didn't think it was necessarily worth the upgrade. Where this one I'm like, look, if you can afford it, do it, because it's definitely worth it. So I felt like it was justified to do it. If you guys didn't like that, hey, that's okay. A lot of people who don't subscribe to the channel watch those Kindle videos, so I'll be okay. But it will be the last one. You have my word for it. As long as there is not a Kindle Color coming out anytime soon, it'll be the last Kindle, at least Oasis and Paperwhite video that I do. Did a November book haul. Now, you guys know book hauls always do well. I hope that my guy Moid from Media Death Cult does not read the comments over there, or it will inflate his ego even more than it already is. God bless him. But it was a good time talking about the books that you guys sent me. I always appreciate when people send me stuff, and book hauls are always just so much fun. You just get to show stuff, and it just creates so much conversation in the community of people who want to talk about new books that they want, new books that they're curious about. Give them a look at something that maybe they're curious about getting, but they don't know if, the spines match or things like that. So I don't really need to explain what's great about book hauls. People love to watch them. I enjoy making them, and I enjoy, spreading the love for people who actually will spend their own money to send me something. It's just so awesome. I really do appreciate that, guys. But that actually had a little bit of a different opening where I showed the new bookcase and how I've kind of changed the room around, and where I've got room for another bookcase that inevitably I will need. Yes, I will be up to 7 bookcases eventually. It'll eventually happen. I know it will. Let's talk about some next week plans here, guys. I did say I will be doing my standard Rhythm of War review sometime next week. I cut my intro for it this morning. That was a little rough. It was tough. When I was reading along I would just highlight some stuff either in my Kindle, because I'm not like some of you masochists that like to write in your books or highlight in your books. So what I would do is because I did buy the Kindle version in case the hard copy got here late and I wanted to start early. So deal with it. Kindle books count. And I would actually go and I would get the Kindle with me and I would actually highlight in the book, so I'd be able to go back and find those quotes to use for my intro. And then when I was going through them, I was like, man, none of these quotes are really fitting with kind of the feel I had for this book. So I had to actually think about some parts I really like and go back and find ones. And I think I found some ones I liked. I don't know. It depends on what you guys think there, because I just didn't think, reciting about the 18 different types of light from the Bonnie chapters would have been very interesting for an intro. But, to each their own. I'll also be doing another review. I'll be doing 2 reviews next week. So I'll be doing the standard Rhythm of War, and I'll also be doing a non-spoiler review for Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. If you follow me on social media or on the Discord, you know that I like the book quite a bit. So I'm going to tell you why I like that book quite a bit. Such a good time, so refreshing, such a wonderful palate cleanser. And it's actually a book that kind of makes me sad. That's kind of going to be a one and done with the group that's in that book. So it's one of those things where you say, hey, I wish that more people would write standalone fantasy, and then when they write standalone fantasy, you're like, but I want more, So I know there are other books in that series, but they are not for the same group. It's a different group of characters in each book. And I'm sure what I like his writing style enough. It's just, I just became so endeared to that crew that it's going to be tough to kind of move on to that second book. But it's not actually on the schedule at the moment, so we're all good. We'll be putting together what I'm calling my read-along schedule and FAQ, because I get so many questions. Like everyone that hops on the Discord, what do I do for the Malazan read-along? Or everybody on Twitter, how do I join for the Malazan read-along? Things like that. So I want to put together a video, again, going over that schedule, going over some of the questions like, why are we taking so long to read this? Why are you taking so long in between books? Things like that. Where can I find this? How do I do that? What happens here? I figured it'd be good to make a video just to get that out, because it'll be about 2 weeks away at that point, and I figured that'd be the best launching point for people who are looking to join, because we already have a massive group going on here, like almost to the point like last night I told my wife I'm getting kind of nervous. I feel like this read along is getting bigger than I ever expected it to be. So if we can retain over half of that audience the whole way, it's going to be a fun couple of years here. And then the big one, I have 2 author guests next week. Yes, next week is completely booked with videos. I am going to be talking to Mr. Christopher Rocchio. I just reviewed Empire of Silence on the channel, and I'm going to have him on to talk with me. I think that he is just a quite enigmatic character, and talking to him and listening to some of his videos, it's just stuff I'm not used to hearing from a young author. So it's something I'm going to really enjoy this conversation, I think. And then the other one, you guys might have heard of this one. He writes some books called Dresden Files. Yes, I have the extraordinary opportunity to have Mr. Jim Butcher on the channel early next week. And if you guys missed it on the community tab, I put a place if you guys want to submit a question for me to ask him, because I don't want it to just to be, an hour of me saying, yes, Dresden Files is great. I like Star Wars too. I don't want to be like that Chris Farley thing. Hey, remember when you were in the Beatles? I don't want it to be like that. I wanted to actually be able to, and I don't want it just to be like, hey, can you tell me the answer to this theory, where he's just going to tell you, you'll find out, or I can't tell you yet. So I want to kind of open up some questions. So I got a lot of interesting questions in there, stuff that isn't just relating to Dresden Files. The stuff that I think will be fun that you don't hear in every single interview that you see out there with Jim Butcher. And a lot of people have asked me if they're going to have spoilers. Look, this is the first time I have an author this big on the channel. I'm going to let him do whatever he wants. I'm not going to try to control Jim Butcher. If I say, hey, Jim, don't be putting any spoilers out there. No, Jim Butcher can talk about whatever he'd like. So that should be up sometime middle of next week. And I am, it's one of those things like nervous excitement. I don't really get starstruck. I don't have a problem talking to anybody. But I've also never had an author, this renowned on the channel before. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be talking to Stephen King and I'm just going to be like, nervous the whole time, but it will be one of those things where I'm like, wow, I'm talking to Jim freaking Butcher right now. So it's all new to me, guys. It's just a new experience for me as the channel gets bigger. I do have a couple of non-book things here I want to talk about. I told you I finished reading The Martian. And here's the thing. My kid walked in while I was reading it the other day, and he saw the cover with the astronaut on it. And look, he's of that age, as all boys are at that age. Maybe girls too. I don't know. I only have boys, and I am a boy. So obviously, I only know this point of it. You're obsessed with NASA and wanting to be an astronaut up until you're about a teenager, right? And some people even longer. My kid, he hasn't really learned that you have to really get hardcore on math yet before you can be an astronaut. So that hasn't sunk into him yet. So he is obviously fascinated fascinated with space and astronauts. So he saw the cover of the book. He's like, "Whoa, you're reading an astronaut book? What's it about?" And I kind of told him about it. He's like, "That sounds really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, you want to read it?" I was like, "Nah," because he doesn't want to read anything without pictures in it yet. Talked about that before. He says, "Is there a movie?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, there is. When I finish this, I'll watch the movie with you if you want." And we watched it last Wednesday night, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. And the thing is, he's very, very much into science. He goes, my mother-in-law has a ranch out in Montgomery, Texas, and he goes out there and spends a week with her sometimes, and they plant, they do planting and stuff like that. So he's real interested in botany and things like that. So it was really, he's space, science, botany, jokes about Iron Man. I mean, he was all over it. He loved it. He had a great time with it. I didn't care that it had some cuss words in it. I mean, I'm married to a redhead. He hears that kind of language all the time. We try to be good parents. But it was really fun, sharing stuff where I feel like I'm getting to that. It's that kind of that point where you're getting to where your kids are getting old enough that you can share some movies that aren't just stuff you liked when you were like 6, So I've run out of 80s movies to show them now, I think. So getting to share that with them was good. And the thing about that movie, as I'll say, is I think that might be the most faithful book adaptation I've ever seen put on film. I was actually blown away. Here's the thing. I said I'd seen the movie first. When it first came out, we saw it, and my youngest kid was about a month old when it came out. So we were suffering from like sleep deprivation and stuff, because before that, all I could remember about that movie was him harvesting his potatoes and poop. That's like all I could remember. I remember that I liked it. But I didn't remember much about the movie. So reading the book and then watching the movie like immediately after I finished the book was really cool. I mean, some of the dialogue is straight from it. Hardly any changes at all. Just a couple of things that really you'd have to really nitpick about. Really, really awesome adaptation. So Ridley Scott, well done. I don't like what you've done with Alien later in your life, but you did a really good job with that one. I wish more people would not be so afraid to adapt a book and make it feel like it's the book. I get so many people with adaptations that they either say they want to change it for whatever reason or they want to, make it their own. No, man, it's not. That's great, but every once in a while, it wouldn't be hard to adapt the book. Are you listening, Josh Boone? Yeah, I've seen the trailers for The Stand. Anyhow, now we're on to season 5 of The Shield. That is my favorite season of The Shield, so I'm excited to see what my wife thinks so far. Season 4 was kind of the most unbalanced season. That's the season with Glenn Close. She was very good, and her and Michael Chiklis together were very good scenes, but the season did feel kind of unbalanced, I'll admit. It's my least favorite season of The Shield, but it's still top-notch. I mean, all 7 seasons are 2 thumbs up from me. But that season did struggle a little bit. Some of your side characters, Dutch and Claudette, had really reduced roles. And, you had a big guest. That was the first time they'd had a guest star that big on the channel. The FX wanted to make sure that they made that kind of the focal point. And I think it struggled a little bit because of that. But I remember season 5 being my favorite. That's the season with Forrest Whitaker. And I'm looking forward to seeing if my wife enjoys it as much as I have, because I am enjoying this Shield rewatch. It is such a fantastic show. But I've told you that, guys, numerous times on these weekly updates. Let's get into gaming talk. Yes, elephant in the room. It is Cyberpunk 2077 release. Well, I guess release day was yesterday, but for a lot of people, Friday is going to be the release day. I did not get it yet. I am just going off of feedback that I'm hearing. And here's the thing. It feels like there's like a civil war going on between people right now. There's the people who very clearly want it to fail. There's people who would rather see it fail because they want to say, aha, I was right. And then there's people who, no matter if it is good or not, are going to say it's the best thing ever just because CD Projekt Red made The Witcher 3. Look, here's the thing. I am not like that. I look at things from a business perspective. If they've put out a game that a lot of people are saying, well, that game was never going to work on PS4 or Xbox One, well, then they deserve to take their licks because you knowingly put out a product that was bad for your consumer. That is business 101. That I'm not going to let that slide. I'm going to give you your shit for it. So here's the thing. They're not above criticism just because they made a great game before. That's like saying, hey, Metallica doesn't deserve any criticism because they put out Master of Puppets. No, they put out some shit after that. So they got criticism, right? So here's the deal. I want the game to be great. Obviously, I mean, if you've watched this channel at all on weekly updates over the last year, you know I want this game to be great. I think Witcher 3 was like my game of the generation. So, of course, I want this game to be another game that takes 300 hours of my life away. I am just, like I said, looking at it from a business perspective. I can't let it slide if they've knowingly put out a product that doesn't work on last-gen consoles and just wanted to get your money. No. I mean, I play on PC. Look, guys, the console wars, the PC master race people, Don't care. I don't care about all that. I don't care about brand loyalty. I don't care about anything like that. I just want good products, and I want them to treat their consumers well. Now, CD Projekt Red in the past has put out games that were very buggy. I don't care about bugs. Here's the deal. I just don't like the excuses of, oh, well, the game was never going to work on last-gen consoles. Then don't fucking put them out. It's that simple. Don't put them on that platform. They put Breath of the Wild when it came out. They put it on the Wii and the Switch, and you know what? It worked just fine on the Wii. So I think that that's just an excuse. I'm hoping it's just an excuse. I'm sure a lot of these things will be fixed. I haven't played it yet. What I said was, I learned with Witcher 3, a game that massive is going to take some time. So I'll wait for the first couple of updates, then I'll buy it on PC, and I'll probably have a better gaming experience for it. I am not thumbs upping or thumbs downing the game at all. I know people were really, really taking criticism personally this morning, and I didn't mean it that way. What I was just saying was, if they knowingly did that, they deserve to take their criticism. That's it. Again, business first, man. That's me. But look, I think that's a bad business practice if that's really what they did. I don't believe it is. I believe that they'll get some kind of patch out there, some kind of another 50 gig update or something like that, and they'll fix it. But again, I don't play these on console, so I don't know. Only games I play on consoles are exclusives. So I'll be getting it on PC when I do. I don't care what platform you get it on. I don't understand the people that are like ready to fight because someone wants to get it on Xbox instead of PlayStation. I don't get all that. I've talked about that before. But as far as Cyberpunk, it's mixed reaction to what I'm seeing right now on Twitter. Yes, there are people who are just being ugly just to be ugly. I mean, that's Twitter, guys. Have you used the app before? It flourishes on negativity. It really does. So I expected to see that. But it's the people that are ready to fight if you criticize it that I don't get. If it's valid criticism and not just trolling, I think you need to maybe take a step back and look and say, well, maybe it had unreal expectations. This is like Chinese Democracy from Guns N' Roses. There was no way it was going to be great. There was no way. It just took too long, right? I hope that it can buck that and it can fix things. Again, I think about what The Witcher 3 was on release day and what it was just 2 weeks later. It was like night and day. They fixed almost everything immediately. And that's a hardworking team. So I'm sure that they'll fix a lot of things. My whole issue is just if it is really, really unplayable on the previous gen consoles, that's just bad business. And I'm not going to let it slide. So guys, that was my week. Are you playing Cyberpunk? I bet you are. In fact, you're probably not watching this because you're playing Cyberpunk. But what are you up to? What are you listening to? What are you playing? What are you reading? Guys, what are you watching? Drop in the comments and let me know and have yourselves an awesome weekend.